Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Wednesday. Hoping my microphone's working. If you are watching, do please pop a hello in the comments. Let me know if you can hear me as well. Got a new microphone. Look, it looks like I'm from the BBC. But I'm not sure it's working. So let me know you can hear me. It's a big old beastie. Let's hope it's working anyway. As always, yes, do please pop a hello in the comments. And welcome to Wednesday. She says, I can see lots of you watching, no comments on the screen. I'm in a different location today, bit of a temporary location at the minute. Oh, there we are. Oh, all of a sudden, bam. It's working. Thank you, Nikki. Good morning, Jane. Yes, I did have my hair chopped yesterday. Good morning, Angela. Windy here at the Owlery. That's a good name, isn't it? The weather isn't great either. No, we've got rain this morning in Hampshire. Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, Amanda. You can hear me. Thank you. Yes, new microphone. Never sure if things work, technology and all that. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, Luna. Good morning, Heather. So Pete and Eric, I'm upstairs today. So Pete and Eric are downstairs at the minute. I'm hoping coffee will arrive at some point. Good morning, Jay. Good morning, Kerry. Good morning, David. Thank you. Good morning, Karen. Thank you. Yeah, haircut yesterday. Yes, short. It is now all completely natural colour. Da, 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 da. I've embraced the greys. No blondes, no bleaches, no highlights. Yeah, it's all me. There you go, embracing it. Good morning, Leslie. Good morning, Emma. Thank you. Good morning, Kerry. Nice to see you, if you know what I mean. Good morning, Karen. Bonjour, Cornelia. Jane, had to turn volume up high this week. Okay, I've got this new microphone. I'm testing it out. So I have no idea how it works. I will have a look later at the settings and see if I can increase the volume for you. I don't think I can do it from here. Let's have a look. Clickety click. Talk amongst yourselves. What's that? What's that? Oh, mic volume. Yeah, I've turned it up a little bit. Let me know if that's any better. Don't want to deafen you all. Kerry, just started raining here in Culinary. Yeah, it's wet here this morning. Good morning, Mandy. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Little Miss Nemo. Yes, drum kit. That is Pete's electronic drum kit for him to do his rehearsals at home. Thank you, Heather. Good morning, Linda. Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, Hannah. The mic does look impressive. It is ridiculously heavy, but it does make me feel a little bit like a 1950s BBC presenter. Good morning, Christine. Good morning, Julie. Thank you. Oh yeah, I am Lisa. Pressing buttons. I shouldn't really, should I? So I am in a bit of a temporary situation up here in the spare room at the moment. It's a bit of a junk room at the minute. But I'm testing locations so that I don't have ambient noise around me and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, temporary at the minute because what you can't see outside of this camera is all the rubbish. So I've narrowed it down so that you can just see me and a couple of little bits. What you can't see is all the boxes of books and all the other rubbish. But yeah, David, press all the buttons. Yeah. Yeah, I shouldn't be allowed technology, really. That's what I do. I just click everything to see what happens. Yeah, Heather, 1950s radio shows it is, isn't it? But it was recommended by our Moonbooks techie guy, so I took his advice. Good morning, Eva. Finally managed to get back from dog training in time to join. Hey, good for dog training, though. We took Eric to that when he was a puppy. He was not impressed. Really, really not impressed. But there you go. Good morning, Karen Doll. Yeah, it's raining and dull. Thank you, Emma. Thank you. Yeah, haircut yesterday. Molly Caswell's in North End. Very good. I'm going there for years. Anyway, so welcome to Wednesday. I thought today we could talk about the Wheel of the Year, because although I've covered a few of the Sabbats, and obviously we're heading up for Samhain, I thought today we could talk about the Wheel of the Year in general. A bit book plug, because Pete tells me off for not plugging them, which for every season does just that. It looks at the Wheel of the Year and more. It goes beyond it, which is what I want to talk about today. It's about expanding the Wheel of the Year and making it personal to you and your area, and how you work with the Sabbats and the seasons. And so that's the theme for today, really. How do you work with the Wheel of the Year? Do you work with the Wheel of the Year? And we'll take it from there and see how we go. Thoughts, insights, questions, as usual, pop them in the comments. Good morning, Louise. All bright here. Oh, send some airway. That'd be lovely. Thank you. So a couple of shout outs. Wandering Witches, Saturday, 4th of November, Cowplain Activity Centre. Myself, Heather, Ness and Sue will be there with a stall. Lots of fabulous stalls. Music on the stage throughout the day as well. Fantastic event. Cowplain in Hampshire. Do come along and see us if you are in the area. And anything else, if you want to know what's going on, I've got a couple of things going on at the College of Psychic Studies as well. Have a look at the events page on my website and you'll see all of the details. Good morning, Kerry. Good morning, Trudy. Good evening, Sephora. Now the fun bits start. Keeping the yellow out of your grey. I've got some wonderful shampoo that does the whole purple thing to keep the brassy tones out. Yeah. Technical stuff. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Leslie. Yeah, oh, there's a link to the book too. Let's wait. We're out again. Look, oh, hello, book. Eva, let's get some of these up. Great book. Thank you. Really love all the extra non-standard witch info too. Yeah, for me, it's about folk magic. It's about folk magic and festivals and everything that's going on in your local area adds to the energy. So it's not just about the Sabbats, the 8 Sabbats in the year. It's about all the other stuff that's going on as well. You know how much I talk about connection to the land and to the area that you live in. So that's my take on it. Little Miss Nemo, silver suits you beautifully. Thank you. Silver doesn't suit me because nothing goes together. I have noticed the older I've got. I'm 55 next week. Week after. I'm 55 on Halloween, on Samhain. My skin has changed, and I've had to. I've always worn makeup, 80s teenager, blue mascara, pink eyeshadow, that beautiful, beautiful amethyst shimmer lipstick, which I still have. I've had to change my makeup. And as my skin's gotten older, the color of my skin has changed as well. So I've had to change how I do my makeup as well, to tie in with my hair. And I found I've always dyed my hair. I've had every color under the sun. And I found as well the darker colors were making me look quite washed out, very vampire. So I've had to change my makeup as well. But thank you. Louise. Wheel of the Year. Guess what I got for my birthday last week? Which 4 seasons? You have some good friends. Karen, first thing I do when the time feels right is change my main altar to reflect the coming Sabbath. That gives me focus. Now, I do work with the Sabbats. I did fall off the wheel a long while back where I found the Sabbats weren't tying in with the weather in my area, which is really what sparked writing the book. I was not wearing a coat at the winter solstice because it was too warm. There were roses flowering in the garden in December. They're still flowering now. Things didn't quite tie in with the dates on the Wheel of the Year, and I just fell off it completely. And I started working with. First of all, I started working with the seasons. So I would change my altar for each season. I would work with the energy of each season. And then I began to narrow it down to the months. So I would work with the different energy of each month. And of course, each month has a Sabbath. 8 of them have Sabbats, but each month has folklore or holidays or celebrations of some kind, traditional things. So you can build on that energy as well, which is what I did in the book. And it's broken down into months. But I think it's really important to connect with the energy, connect with the season in your area. If we look at the Wheel of the Year, bit of info, it was first put forward, and I didn't know this. I researched this for the book. I didn't know this one. It was first put forward by Jacob Grimm. Yep, the scholar Jacob Grimm of Grimm's Fairy Tales. In his work Teutonic Mythology, which is dated, let's have a look, 1835, he put forward the idea of a Wheel of the Year. But the modern Wheel of the Year was devised in the mid-20th century. It has been attributed to Gerald Gardner, founder of modern Wicca, and Ross Nichols, who founded OBOD, the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. So the Wheel of the Year as we look at it now is a fairly modern structure. There is evidence that the ancient Celts celebrated some of the Wheel of the Year festivals, although they probably called by other names that have been lost over time. So the modern wheel was originally based on Samhain, Imbolc, Beltane and Lughnasadh. Solstices and the equinoxes were added in modern times, and some of them were even given new names. So in the 1970s, created the Wheel of the Year that we know now. And let's throw it out there already. The name Mabon was given to the autumn equinox, and it was given in the 1970s by the author Aidan Kelly. So it isn't an ancient name. But if working with the Wheel of the Year works for you, go for it. If calling the autumn equinox Mabon works for you, go for it. If you want to call the autumn equinox Festival of Falling Leaves, do it. My policy on these things. Do what works for you. But the actual Wheel of the Year is not ancient in the format that we know it, with the 8 Sabbats on, although some of it is drawn from ancient festivals. However, I think it's quite a good structure to work from. What it does is give you a map of the year, and what it does is give you an excuse to celebrate every 6 weeks. And that's, cake every 6 weeks. I think it's a good structure to work from, but I think you have to adapt it. It was created in England, basically. So the seasons, the Sabbats to celebrate the harvest, spring, they're all going to relate more to the weather in England. So if you are in a completely different country, us celebrating the first harvest of the grain may have no relevance to you whatsoever in your area. You might be having the first harvest of mangoes or pineapples or whatever it might be. That's not going to relate to us at all. So I think you have to, I believe you have to adapt it to your area. And also the calendar's changed. The calendar has changed over time, and it's about 2 weeks different now to the original calendar. Julian, Gregorian, it's all very technical. So if you're expecting things to bloom when you think they should, like the hawthorn at Beltane, it's possibly not going to happen, because things have changed and seasons changed and the world is changing and global warming and the weather patterns is all changing. So for me, it has to be very fluid. And while we're on that, although it is Samhain coming up on the 31st of October, 1st of November, I'm betting most of you have started putting your decorations up already, if they're not already up. And I think for me, that's how the Sabbats work. It isn't just one date on a calendar. Mother Nature doesn't read the calendar. For me, it's a period of time. So it's a couple of weeks before, it's a couple of weeks afterwards. But in actual fact, if the Sabbats are every 6 weeks, you can literally run one into the other. So celebrate Samhain 3 weeks before, the waxing energy of Samhain, and then work with the waning energy of it for 3 weeks afterwards until you go into the next one. I hope that makes sense to people. That's how I work with it. It's very fluid and it works with the cycles. It's a wheel of the year after all. So it's forever turning and moving, but I think it has to be adapted to the area that you work in. Oh, that was a lot of talk. Good morning, Jalala. Eating toast with homemade plum and cinnamon jam. Oh, that sounds delicious. I'll just mention that to Heather, the plum fairy. Plum fairy? Jam fairy. Haven't had my coffee yet. Hannah. My wheel of the year includes wassail and weather law markers. I think it has to be really personal for you. It has to have things that have meaning to you. Yule is a good one. Yule is a good one to wear with the winter solstice. I'm the only pagan in my family. I love the energy of Christmas. My family aren't Christian, but they've always done Christmas big time. And I love that energy. I love that build-up energy. I love that buzz of excitement. I love the Hallmark Channel. I love Christmas films. I work for several weeks before the winter solstice working on that waxing punch of energy. And for me, you bring in the folk traditions, the family traditions, the legend stuff, Father Christmas, all of it, all brings into my pagan celebrations because it's all part of it and it's all energy that can be worked with. In my head anyway. Jane used to observe all 8 spokes in the wheel of the year by having a ritual bath, fire, wearing the right colour robe for the day of the week and doing some random spell. Nowadays, I tend to observe the gaps between the spokes. And that's a good way of describing it. You always have good ways of describing things, Jane. And that, to me, is just as important. That energy before, that energy after. You've got the waxing, the celebration, the waning. It all brings a different energy to it. Good morning, Jason. Good morning, Jodie. You have caught us live. Welcome to the 55 Club. Yes, then the end of October, that'll be me. Kerry. With the kooky weather these days, it doesn't match the wheel anymore at the moment. No, it doesn't. And that, for me, was one of the main reasons for falling off the wheel and then creating my own way of working with it. It has to... Oh, that made me jump. The coffee has arrived.
The hand has arrived.
Oh, that made me jump.
Sorry.
That's how quiet it is up here. Thank you. No, the weather doesn't match the dates on the calendar. And that's Mother Nature doesn't look at her diary and go, oh, I've got to put that in blossom now. It doesn't work that way. So for me, I think it has to. Oh, Twilight teaser. Yes. Lipstick colours. 80s. Yeah, definitely. Love it. Good morning, Maria. Little Miss Nemo reminds me you must change my altar and clean it. I think the altar anyway does benefit, doesn't it, occasionally from being cleared and cleaned. I think if your altar has been sat for a while, the energy does get stagnant and it really helps. I think it helps to reconnect. I think it helps to get the energy moving again. One of the first things I do if I feel that I've lost my connection or I'm, struggling a bit is clear and clean my altar and start again. It's a bit of a key thing for me. Jodie, I've been creating my own wheel of the year. It's a long process listing things that are unique to the area. Yes, and that plug. Which of the season does that? I work by months. So for each month, let's have a look at October. I have what's in nature. I think that's a good place to start. Look at what's happening in nature in your area for each month. If you journal, it's a brilliant thing to do, but you can do a photographic journal. You can do drawing sketches, writing stuff down. It's entirely up to you. But I think taking note of what's happening in nature is the key starting point for it all. But then I look at holidays and celebrations, not just pagan ones, because as I say, all of these other things, all of these local things, all of the things that are happening in your county, in your area, in your country, will all add to the energy of the month. So in October, we have a Pearly King Harvest Festival in London, usually the first Sunday in October, hosted in Trafalgar Square. If you haven't ever seen Pearly Kings and Queens, they are amazing. And then you look at what you can take from that as a pagan. So Pearly Kings and Queens are covered from head to foot in pearly buttons. And you know how I feel about button magic. There is a chat on YouTube about button magic. So work some button magic, because you're drawing on the energy of that celebration. I put it up on Facebook the other day, Devil's Blackberry Day. Once October the 10th arrives, you should no longer harvest blackberries, because on October the 10th, the devil spits or pees on them, depending on what folklore that you find, and that makes them poisonous. What it actually is a folklore that tells you that after, first or second week in October, the blackberries aren't going to be any good, really. But it's a nice little tale that goes with it. And there's a story with St. Michael as well, throwing the devil out of heaven, who is said to have landed on a blackberry bush. So there's lots of folklore with that. Blackberries. Work some magic with blackberries, with the energy of blackberries. And of course, then you've got the whole Halloween, Samhain type celebrations. Last Thursday in October is Punky Night in some parts of the UK. South of England does it as quite often. Story of local men going to a fair and getting drunk. So drunk they couldn't find their way home. The wives set out to find their wayward husbands, carrying punky lanterns with them. The punky was made from this is quite possibly the best named vegetable in the whole world. Their lanterns were made from a mangelwurzel. Really, it's just a beet. It's a swede or a beetroot. But in the days leading up to Punky Night, children carve beets or pumpkins into elaborate designs. It's one of the forerunners of Halloween, really. And Samhain and Halloween, we know all the correspondences for that. But even Halloween, which obviously isn't a pagan holiday, but stems from pagan roots, work with the energy of it. Oh, pumpkin magic, so much stuff you can work with pumpkin. There's some information on my blog for that. And at the beginning of October, pudding season. Now that's just my celebration wrapped up, really, isn't it? It heralds 1st of October heralds the start of pudding season in England. There's no official documentation of this, but there's a lot of folklore about it. There's a lot of tradition about it. It's the end of the harvest, so meat would have needed to be preserved to keep our ancestors going during the cold winter ahead. Now, here's the twist. Originally, pudding was savoury rather than sweet. I know that's quite disappointing, isn't it? The word pudding is believed to derive from the French boudin or the Latin botellus, and its original meaning was, wait for it, stuffed entrail. Yum! Over the time, the meat content was added to with fillers such as suet and flour, so you get the suet pudding. And then, obviously, they made it a sweet version as well. It's obvious, isn't it, what you do to celebrate that? You make pudding. There's various things that obviously we're associate with Samhain, the dumb supper, the wild hunt, but there is all sorts of folklore. One of the ones that I found when I was researching was maidens' garlands. That comes from Yorkshire in England. So unmarried women that had passed over would have special garlands of white flowers, strips of fabric and ribbon for their funerals. The garlands would be made by friends and carried at the woman's funeral procession, then hung in the church until they disintegrated. St Mary's Church in Yorkshire has a garland dating back to 1680. And Shakespeare mentions the use of maiden garlands in his play Hamlet. So there's a big, long tradition with that. And that, to me, just says good excuse to make garlands, flowers, ribbons, to honour those that have passed over. So it kind of ties in with Samhain as well. And of course, each month has its own moon magic energy. There's various energies for different magical workings. There are animals, there are crystals that are all associated with each month. There are plants. You can make incenses, you can make oils associated with the energy of the month. Food, obviously. There are, eating seasonally is something that I've banged on about a lot. But eating those foods that are in season help you connect with the energy of the month. Changing your altar, we've already mentioned. Meditations, rituals. There are different deities associated with the energies of each month. Lots and lots of different things that you can bring together, as Jodie says, to make your own unique Wheel of the Year. And that's exactly how I work with it. Sorry, I waffled on for a long time then. Sephora, it's one of the things I'm quite passionate about. You might have guessed. Sephora, being in the 58 club, wait till you have to start the eyebrow battle, already there. Half of my eyebrows are drawn in. That's something to admit, isn't it, on camera? Yeah, where do your eyebrows disappear to? What happens to them? It's one of those weird things like socks in the washing machine, isn't it? Kerry, I work with it very loosely for that same reason. And I think it does. I think that the Wheel of the Year has to have that connection to you, but it gives a structure that you can work from. Good morning, Charlie. Fab hair, is there a lilac tint? I think my shampoo puts a little bit of a lilac tint in it. Emma, getting through the book, very slow reading. Oh, don't be this. You take your time with it, Emma. Take your time with it. Yeah, Jalala, I've seen a lot of Welsh people getting pretty upset about people using Mabon. It is a bit controversial. As I say, it is a modern thing. It was just, this author deciding in 1970s, Aidan Kelly, that he was going to give the autumn equinox a name. They'd set the Wheel of the Year. It was all organised with the 8 things on, and it didn't have a name. It was the autumn equinox. It needed a name. So he, for whatever reason, decided to call it Mabon. It is Welsh. He is a Welsh god. I don't know a huge amount about it because I don't use the name. I tend to use autumn equinox. But I think as long as if you want to use it, understand the meaning behind it. Understand the story behind it, because it is a Welsh deity. So it's got all of that story behind it. So if you're going to use it, research that story, look at the legend, look at the mythology, and understand why and what that name means. But you have to be comfortable using the name that you want to use, I think. David, I changed the deco of the house to the seasons. When I feel the change, a season wreaths on the window, not so much stuff. Yeah, and I think that's how it should be. For me, that is how it should be. You've got to feel that energy. Autumn has been quite, I say, late here in England, but the seasons are changing. So, last week Pete was still wearing his shorts and it's October, which seems a bit mad, really. Things are shifting, seasons are changing. So you've got to go, I think, with the feel of it. Isn't it Sabbath? Mabon, it is the name given to the autumn equinox, but it is taken from Welsh mythology. So it doesn't appear, from what I know about it, to have any real connection to the autumn equinox. So if you want to use the term Mabon, do have a look at the legends and the myths to understand why you're using that name, would be my advice anyway. Jodie, that's odd. The equinoxes and solstices were observed. We see this when studying ancient stone structures. I wasn't there when they put it together. They did start with Samhain, Imbolc, Beltane and Lunsar, apparently. But, it's modern. The actual Wheel of the Year, as it is with the 8 dates on it, was designed in more modern times. Some of it was drawn from ancient holidays. I'll get my information up. So it is the Wheel of the Year is primarily a Wiccan idea. The 8 Sabbats are divided into lesser and greater Sabbats. So the lesser Sabbats are the solstices and equinoxes. And I know that sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? Because they're the actual set planetary ones. But the modern names given in the Wiccan tradition are Ostara, which is the spring equinox, Litha, which is the summer solstice, Mabon, autumn equinox, Yule, the winter solstice. Lesser Sabbats form the quarter points of the year. When they're placed on the wheel, they form a cross. The remaining 4 Sabbats, Imbolc, Beltane, Lughnasadh, Samhain, fall on the cross quarter days and are known as the greater Sabbats or the fire festivals. I don't know the whys and wherefores. I just did the research. As I say, I work with them as points on the wheel to give a prompt. What I actually tend to work with is the seasons in my area and the energy of each month more, because it seems to make more sense to me. Leslie, yes, I decorate when I feel the change internally, and I think that's the way you should do it. Eva, I mostly decorate my altar with things I find in nature. I only completely change it up when I feel the seasons changing. Up until a few days ago, we were having unseasonably hot weather, so my altar is still dressed for summer with a bit of autumn touches. But the weather has turned now, and I'm getting ready to strip, cleanse, and redress my altar for more of a harvest to prepare for winter feel. And I think that's about observing nature too. We have a rowan tree in our garden which changes leaf colour for the autumn. It hasn't started yet, really. There's not. The leaves are still green. Couple of doors down, they've got a Virginia creeper, which is so bright red. It is beautiful. So that's already turned. So it is different plants and different areas and different weathers. But I say, we were still wearing shorts. Well, I wasn't wearing shorts, but Pete was still wearing shorts last week. And I haven't put a coat on yet to go out. So apart from when the girls and I went to Burley on Friday when it rained. But then that was only for the rain. After that, I was walking around in my t-shirt sleeves. So good morning, Tony. Maria, I live in my own world, so it's autumn all the time. You know, it's got to work for you. Good morning, Jackie, the sugar plum fairy. You know that's going to be your name now, don't you? Hi, Karen. Angela, I changed my house decor with the changes of my local weather. 29 to 32 degrees and beautifully sunny at the end of last week here. 15-degree drop in temperature as of Monday this week. Wet and windy here now, definitely autumn. We often celebrate our Sabbath at the nearest full new moon rather than a set date. The energy often feels right. And yeah, it's absolutely got to work for you. Yeah, for me, it's not about, oh, it's that date. Quick. And I did find when I first did my initial Wiccan training many years ago, apart from it taking forever to learn the dates and the names, and which I regularly forgot, I started off changing my altar for every Sabbath. And then I found that I wasn't, and I'd missed a Sabbath. And I was, oh, horror, I'd missed a Sabbath. And yeah, it got too much, too overwhelming in the beginning to keep up with that continual change, which I think is where I fell off the wheel and then began working with the seasons, because 4 seasons was much easier to work with. Then of course I made it more complicated, and I now work with 12 months. But for me, it flows better, and I think it has to work for you, and it has to flow with your energy. I am going to keep saying that because it's important. Oh, absolutely, Karen. My garden keeps me in tune with the seasons, no calendar included. Yes, if you're a gardener, you're going to be in tune with the seasons. But even if you don't have a garden, I live on the edge of a city, and there are trees down one of the main roads around the corner from us, and there's a birch tree, and I can see it. If I just sort of hang sideways out the bedroom window, I can see it. And every time I come out the front door, I can see it. And that is like, it's like a calendar all of its own, because you can tell from the leaves and the bark and the, you know, all the catkins and everything. You can tell what the weather and what the seasons are doing. So it is about being aware of nature around you. Sephora, garden is my wheel reminder, that and the moon. Little Miss Nemo, yes. Passover and later Easter, yes, dictated by the spring equinox and the moon phases. Isn't that interesting? That a lot of the religious holidays are based on the equinoxes and the moon phases. Interesting. Yes, you are correct. Charlie, when our ancestors were nomadic, I wonder if they celebrated the changing of the seasons very practically according to what was growing, not a date, as it affected their collection of food survival. I think, as was mentioned earlier, I think probably the solstices, which always sounds, it should be solstice solstices, too many S's. I think our ancestors would have celebrated those. We've seen that from the structures like Stonehenge, which is aligned to the solstice sun. And I think they would have celebrated that. I think our ancestors were very much aware of the moon and the sun. They obviously were tapped into the weather and the seasons because they relied on it for food, and without food they would have died. So it was quite an important thing to them. They knew the turning of the seasons. So I think they would have celebrated the solstices, absolutely, because they were turning points in the wheel of the year. They marked the seasons. The same bit later on with the harvests, because coming up to winter they would have stored the food away because they knew that the cold winter months were coming and that they had to store stuff away to keep them alive over the winter. They were so tapped into the weather and the seasons, absolutely. I think they were very much aware of the sun and the moon phases, absolutely. Yeah, I think they were very keyed in. David, we've added wassail to ours, free cider, and I get to hit children with a stick. I love Morris dancing. It is one of my favorite things. I think it is such a fantastic tradition that we need to keep going. I think it is. It's amazing stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Angela, I'm about to move my altar. It's been by the window facing south for a while. I now feel I need to move to the east wall by the fireside. Follow your intuition. It will never let you down. Never let you down. We have some random conversations, don't we? And going from altars to eyebrows. Leslie has battled the eyebrows. I have them tattooed now. Yeah, I did. I thought about that because obviously I'm not shy with tattoos. Jody, absolutely what's happening nature right now. The bush orchids are flowering, and it is. I think it is about telling what's happening in the garden and in nature. That's your calendar, not any dates written down by humans, which were then, like I say, the calendars were changed over time anyway. So Little Miss Nemo, 2023 has been the year of the veg patch, so my observations have been directed by that. Or of vegetable growing is, yeah, definitely a good nature's calendar for sure, and a lot of hard work. Been there, done that. Too old for those shenanigans now. Emma, the last few weeks confused me. Oh yes, cold, then hot, then cold again. Yes, I'm with you, Emma. I have to admit, I'd much rather be on the sofa with a blanket and a hot water bottle and a good book than laying out sunbathing. Yeah. So now I believe it's either winter and we've skipped autumn, or it's actually autumn now. Now the leaves haven't changed in my garden yet. Although I did see a few leaves last week out when we were out driving out and about, starting to change on the trees. Little Miss Nemo likes the cold and the rain as well in the right times. Yeah, when you're indoors, all wrapped up warm. Charlie, I think the moon cycles would have been more constant, maybe in a way when traveling, and when they settled, there is evidence of planting with the moon cycles. Oh, there's a whole thing. Words gone, disappeared. System. There's a whole system of planting by the moon, which goes back for generations, and it actually makes sense. there's a whole list of things that tell you. In my Beneath the Moon book, I do touch on it a bit. It's about times of the year when you should plant root vegetables or cut things back or plant seeds, or it's very detailed and it is very, very clever, but it's very old too. Very old way of planting, and a lot of gardeners still use it now. Jason, Cos and I want to go to New Orleans at Halloween. They do a huge street parade, looks amazing. Yeah, if you're going to go anywhere for Halloween, that's got to be the place, isn't it? Oh, back to eyebrows. Hang on. Jane found a tiny dark beige mascara type thing in Poundland. Tame my eyebrows. It works, and it's only £1. Long stragglers get pulled out with little pointed pliers. I must admit, I've got a little mascara thingy. Trini London. It's not £1, but it does work. I have to look in Poundland when I. David, this weekend we're going to musical bingo night. You know how to rock, David. You think we can add that? It's always seasonal. Yeah, but it's energy, isn't it? One of the things we get our students to do when they're looking at the Wheel of the Year lesson is to look at traditions, festivals, celebrations in your local area, because that will have a lot of impact on the energy. I live in Portsmouth, so I'm in a naval town that has a huge history. We've got the Mary Rose, we've got the Mayflower, we've got D-Day museums, huge amount of naval history. And it has an effect on the energy when any of those celebrations are going on. So, yeah, I'd go for that, David. Add that in. I quite like the idea of a musical bingo night. This weekend, we have our youngest 18th birthday. Oh, I feel so old. Little Miss Neeb. Oh, mangel-wurzel. Isn't it such an amazing word for a vegetable? It's an amazing word anyway. English dialect words are great. We can't let them die. Oh, I'm with you on that one. Absolutely. Yeah, I will put this one up, obviously. Puddings. Yes. Just if anyone's asking, bread pudding is my favourite. I like a rice pudding too. Jalala. In France, it's pudding season every season. Oh, you cannot call the French patisseries puddings. They'd be horrified. Their patisserie is amazing. Absolutely. Just blown away by French patisserie. Very, very talented in the patisserie department. That's random. Haggis. Well, yes, because that would have been the kind of original idea of the puddings, because the pudding was originally meat. It was savoury and stuffed. So, yeah, haggis would have been it. I can't say haggis is my favourite thing to eat, but yeah, haggis. Stuffed entrails sounds very haggis-like, and that's pretty much what it would have been. Little Miss Nemo, mincemeat was originally minced meat. It was indeed heavily spiced to disguise how off it had become. I think as well, when spices first came over, they were very expensive and they were used by the upper class. So it was a bit show-offy to put spices in everything. So yes, the original, your mince pie, love a mince pie, Christmas pudding, Christmas cake. Don't like them? Send them all to me. I will dispose of them for you quite happily. I love mince pies. My mum's mince pies, the best mince pies ever. But yes, they did originally have meat in them. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Heather makes a very nice rice pudding. Heather has made me rice pudding before. That's what good friends do for you. And Heather makes the jam to go on top of it as well. Jalala, Teffa knows how they make it so creamy. That's from a custard rice pudding advert for anyone that doesn't know. Charlie, local traditions, you have so much knowledge. Pudding season, yes please. Yeah, isn't autumn always snack season, and December definitely accidental too much food season? Yeah, not so much accidental. But I think as well that kind of ties in, doesn't it? Because puddings would have been a way of preserving the meat originally, and the spices would have been used to keep it going to overwinter. So it makes sense. It does make sense. Jane, whatever happens with global warming, wonky seasons, we can always rely on the moon to be our calendar. Yep. She keeps going. She keeps it structured. She knows what she's doing and where she's going. Maria, I've been really bad with changing my altar this year. Didn't feel the need. If you don't feel the need, then trust your intuition. You know I always bang on about this, Maria. It has to feel right for you. Absolutely. I've made Kerry laugh. I'm glad I made you laugh. Jane, eyebrows either disappear or do the Dennis Healy thing. Mine are trying to do both. It's a bit like the battle between the holly and the oak. The holly and the oak eyebrow battle. I think there's something in that. I mean, there's definitely something in that. Little Miss Nemo. I think for me, there's a lot of energy in the build up to Samhain, and I feel deprived if I can't celebrate it the way I'd like. Things can get in the way. And I think that's as well. I think it is also about accepting that, sometimes life does get busy. And if you miss the 31st of October, there's nothing to stop you celebrating Samhain a week later, 2 weeks later. It's got to feel right for you. And for me, Samhain there is that build-up of energy. I think it is probably the witch's most favourite celebration of the year. And we do get very excited about it. And we do go into the shops and buy all the Halloween decorations for our houses throughout the year. Halloween decorations, not just for Halloween. And I think there is that buzz of energy. But it's an important time. It's important to remember that it's all about the ancestors. It is about remembering those that have gone before us, which is perfect for the witchy world, isn't it? But I don't feel that if you miss the 31st, then, just do it a week later, 2 weeks later. It's got to feel right for you. Back to eyebrows. Mine would probably disappear if I've had them threaded. I've had mine threaded a couple of times. That worked very well. Karen, let me tell you about the eyebrows post-menopause. They come back with a vengeance like Dennis Healy's. I'm hoping I'm on the end of the menopause, so I'll prepare myself for the eyebrows. Jodie, precisely why I'm making my own wheel. I like the idea, but I'm not Wiccan. Well, and as I know, all of my training originally was in Wicca, and I think the Wheel of the Year gives you a very good structure to work from, and it gives you a good excuse to celebrate with other like-minded people. But I think it's also about reinventing the wheel. It's about making it work for you and your area and where you are. Yeah, absolutely. Jodie, we had no winter this year. It's spring now. The seasons are a little bit messed up. Karen, -4 here on Monday. It was so cold. Where are we? Yes, Monday was the first day that our central heating kicked on in the morning automatically. Leslie, in Scotland, it's definitely autumn now. Beautiful misty mornings and steaming breath. It seemed to be hot and sunny to autumn overnight. Yes, it did here as well. It was like flick a switch and then it's done. Charlie, I wonder if on the ley lines and old trackways, Haroldway, Essex, if there are more celebrations, local traditions, Abbott Bromley at them. Maybe not. Geeky brain loving this. I think it's interesting to look at the ley lines because obviously ley lines cross the world. Abbott Bromley have the horn dance, obviously, which is fantastic. Look it up on YouTube. It's amazing to watch. I mean, so much pagan all in one place and still celebrated now, which I think is brilliant. And I think in England we are quite good. In the UK, we are quite good at keeping some folk traditions alive, like the Morris dancing. I think it's important. We do seem to kind of let's remember the origins of them. But there are quite a lot of traditions that still keep going. And also don't forget the saint holidays. I know as pagans it seems a little bit weird to celebrate the saints' holidays, like St. Valentine's, which is an interesting story if you look him up, or two hymns, because there's two possible St. Valentine's. But any of the saints' days, and there's a lot, they bring a lot of energy, but they also, some of them have a real roots in paganism as well. I mean, Bridget is got to be the most famous, if you like, pagan goddess that was taken over. Sounds like she was possessed. Who was converted into a saint. Don't forget the saints' days, particularly if they are celebrated in your area, because again, they'll bring their own energy with them, and there's always something that you can take from it. There'll be a pagan root to it, or there'll be an energy that I mean, St. Valentine's is the obvious one because most places do work with that, and it is about love, obviously, but it could be self-care, self-love, work spells, because that energy is in the air. Forget the expensive roses and the chocolates. That energy is in the air. So draw on that energy to work on it. So you don't discount celebrations that include the saints, because it all carries their own energy. And I think as well, if you are part of a family that have their own religion, so I'm the only pagan, as I say, although my family's not Christian. I know a witch from a Jewish family, and she works her celebrations in with the Jewish holidays. She works the pagan side of it in with the Jewish holidays. It can be done, takes a little bit of thinking about, but it's all about working with the energy of it, really. David, originally and still in some places, Yule was the first full moon after the winter solstice, not the 20th to 23rd December. Well, the 20th to the 23rd of December is the winter solstice. So that is a planetary thing, that it varies between those 3 dates, like the summer solstice, and unlike the equinoxes. They vary between 2 or 3 dates, but they are set on the, it's all to do with the planets dictating that, solstices, equinoxes. So it's about working with it, really. Sephora, I think ancestors based a lot of practice around food, growing, harvesting, storing, running out, because it was all they had to keep them alive. It was a matter of life and death, so it would have been the most important thing to them. Maria, what's the difference between a Sabbath and a Sabbath? I've never called it a Sabbath. No, Sabbath to me is Black Sabbath, which I know Maria will appreciate. Sabbath is more of a term I associate with other religions. I call it a Sabbath, but I don't know. Has anyone got any preference on that or any insight on that? I've never called it Sabbath either. What's the meaning of Sabbath? I'm going to Google now. Let's Google Live. Google Live Sabbath meaning. Okay, so difference. Yeah, falling over my words. When you type the meaning of Sabbath, the dictionary says Sabbath, noun, Sabbath, a day of religious observance and abstinence from work. Oh, I didn't know that. I'm going to bring that in. The Sabbath, according to the dictionary, kept by Jewish people from Friday evening to Saturday evening, and by most Christians on Sunday. They are using Sabbath, a supposed midnight meeting held by witches. Oh, Dick, always look things up in the dictionary because some of the meanings are really funny. Sabbath. Day of the week regularly set aside for religious services. Among the Jews, Saturday. Among most Christians, Sunday. Sabbath. Shabbat. derives from a Hebrew word. I think it's probably you can use what you prefer. I say I tend to use Sabbath because for me Sabbath is a very more book religion type word. But I'm happy to be, if anyone's got any better information than me, do share it in the comments. Jane, I know when summer's turning to winter and I'm suddenly wading through tons of leaves to get to the freezer in the garage. Tends to happen in December nowadays, so autumn has come a bit minor. It's definitely much later this year. Definitely much later. Jane, when I worked in Hatton Garden, we took it in turns to buy an LP and record it for the 8-track stereo in our workshop. When it was my turn, I bought Morris on. Drove everyone crackers. Oh, I love Morris dancing. Hi, Kate. Really loves rice pudding. It's good. It's very good. Jody, I've been studying the moon and how it affects the tides. Well, yeah. How powerful is that? Without the moon, we wouldn't have any tides. There wouldn't be tides. There wouldn't be waves in the ocean. It's amazing, isn't it? Eve, there's a system of gardening Switzerland that's all about using the moon. Oh, not just Switzerland, harvest, planting, etc. They call it Demeter here. Interesting. It's common to find the produce in major grocery stores. We have almanacs that list planting by the moon phases. It's a very ancient tradition in England too, and it works. It's still used now because it works. Emma, our little apple tree is showing signs of autumn now, so I've changed my altar and picked the apples with a thank you and a blessing to the tree. Autumn and winter are my favourite times of the year. Apple is the fruit of the moment, isn't it? Apple is very, very much associated with autumn and with Samhain. Jalala, I do find myself acknowledging the Sabbats, but haven't really celebrated them yet. The only one I really did was in bulk, but I think that was because we just moved house and I felt good to do something. And I think that's important too. I know people that only celebrate the solstices and the equinoxes. I know people that only celebrate the other 4. That some celebrate the lessers, some celebrate the greaters, some only celebrate 2 of them. No, I think it has to be. It has to be. Jody, Wurzel Gummidge. Oh, that takes back to my childhood. John Pertwee, Wurzel Gummidge, and the Crowman. Very pagan. Very pagan. Jason, literally just came back from France with Cos and her brother. I know. I saw all the photos of the pastries. We ate more puddings in 1 week than I'd eat in a year in England. But they were pastries. They were beautifully created pastries, patisseries. The photos are amazing. France definitely knows how to do patisserie, definitely. Sephora, we lack the history here for much of the Wheel of the Year you guys celebrate. I use the ancestors as guidance. Now, Sephora's in New Zealand. And I think that for you, particularly Sephora, is where you set your own work month to month and work with the energies of the weather in your area and traditions and just the energies and what nature's doing. Yeah, that for me, the Wheel of the Year doesn't work so much in the Southern Hemisphere. And I think it really does need to be adapted for your area. Jane, back in the 70s, I had boozy bread pudding in a pub in Essex. I asked for the recipe and was given it by a man who turned out to be Jamie Oliver's dad. You have to boil the fruit in rum and leave it overnight to swell up before making the pud. Absolutely yummy. I've done that with tea as well. Soaked the fruit in chai tea bags before. That makes it very nice too. Yeah, I love bread pudding. Fabulous. Jason's already had his first mince pie. Haven't had my first one yet. It's a bit late for me. Miss Nemo. And pudding is a dumpy thing, not the table creams or blancmange, which is what the Americans call pudding. So, yeah, there is a bit of a language thing here, isn't there? I know with Americans you have banana pudding, that kind of thing. That's not what we call pudding in England. In England, pudding is steamed puddings. It's treacle sponge pudding. It's jam roly-poly. It's rice pudding. Crumbles, fruit crumbles. I think you call them fruit crisps in America. It's the big, heavy, hot puddings with loads of custard. Yeah. Now I really, really want custard and puddings. And yeah, I think the American idea of a creamy pudding derives from the dessert course. Does that sound logical? I think, each country has their own different type. Americans call a lot of their desserts pies, but we would call them tarts because they're open. They don't have pastry on the top. To me, a pie has pastry on the top. I don't care. They all sound lovely. Kerry, my go-to 80s lipstick was number 7 Bonbon. I would. Someone needs to bring back all of the 80s lipsticks colours. I'd buy them all. Jane, for me, Halloween is 31st of October. Samhain lasts all through November as the month of the dead. Yeah, I'd go with that, Jane. Absolutely. Absolutely. Eva, just came back from a trip in northern Italy. It was the Barolo grapes harvest. We ate so much seasonal food plus chocolate. Chocolate hazelnut tarts for breakfast. Also cheese with jam made from the leftover grapes. I gained 1 kilo in a week. Yeah, I like fig jam and with cheese. That's very nice. Yeah, no, I'm really hungry now. But I think that it's about seasonal. It's about eating seasonal because that makes that connection too. Sephora, we have a community Halloween gathering. I'm wondering how far I can go without terrorizing the local children. Do it. Go for it. No holds barred. Yeah, David. I'm with David. Terrorize them. It's seasonal. The gods of the other worlds would expect it. In fact, there's a few that would demand it. Yeah, I'm with David on that one. Jane, I ruined my dad's road atlas joining up the ley lines. They all seem to converge in Hadley. He had to buy a new one. Brilliant. People don't use road atlases anymore, do they? Because it's all sat nav, isn't it? Jody, left my ex-husband on Valentine's Day. Sounds mean. I was being my own Valentine. Yeah, just got to do it. Self-care. Absolutely self-care. Lemmus Nemo, my name day or Saint's Day would be St. John the Baptist. Not so keen on that for several reasons. Each of them have their own energy, though. There's an energy there that you can look at. Angela, autocorrect often changes Sabbath to Sabbath. Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think you're right, little Miss Nemo. Sabbath, Shabbat. Yeah, all related, I think. Jody, Sabbath is the day set aside for God's rest day after creating the world. Sunday, yeah. Yep. Jane, Sunday was traditionally the Sabbath with everyone pottering off to church and no shops open. More or less gone into reverse nowadays. Yeah, we don't have days when the shops are shut these days, do we? Maria, I commented on Killstar's post because they have closed that says which is Sabbath. Yeah, in my head that's a bit of a mixture, but yeah, Sabbath is all. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly as Shabbat, but it is Jewish, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, I meant to say Orthodox Jews will wish each other good Shabbos, I think. Yeah. Eva, Sundays here. Oh, still have the stores closed and you're not allowed to make too much noise or wash your car. Oh, okay. Instead of church, most people now head off into the mountains for hiking. I like that. Yeah, I like that. Yes, you can, Jodie. You can still get Planting by the Moon calendars. You can. Jane, pondering on the lyrics of Autumn Almanac by the Kinks. Very autumnal. Yeah, maybe there's some hidden depths to that one. Maria, mostly excited on Friday the 13th and the whole of October because of Samhain. I even saw a band called, I saw you saw them, Dead Witches, last Friday. The girls and I went to Burley last Friday the 13th. We went to the home of Sybil Leek. Jackie, did you watch the new Wurzel Gummidge? Very pagan folk inspired nature-wise. It was. I didn't like it. I think because I grew up with the original Wurzel Gummidge, the new one didn't do it for me. But I do appreciate that it had an awful lot of pagan-inspired things. I know we've gone over time again. Charlie, when a teenager and my friends were being cool, local events, I would disappear and they would find me joining in the dancing. Love Morris dancing in particular. Oh, yeah, I'm with you, Charlie. I think it's amazing. Jodie, stodgy pudding and custard. I have a rum pumpkin fruitcake recipe. Oh, that sounds like I might need a bit of that. David, crumble. Oh, I love crumble. Not made one for months. I wonder how many apples we have, or did we use them all making cider? Priorities. Jane, pudding is just what we have after dinner, even if it's only a handful of grapes. Yes, when I was a kid, we would have pudding after dinner and it would be a yogurt. Sephora, I see Day of the Dead, start of November. Yeah, I would go with that, absolutely. Charlie, loved the glimmeriness of 80s lipstick. They're just not as good now. No, there's a whole matte thing going on now. It's not the same. There was a uniqueness to the shades and the glimmer. I liked a lilac-y shimmery one. No clue on the name. Probably amethyst shimmer or something like that. Oh, I've still got that one. Oh, I love it. Little Miss Nemo. Sawane's Sabbath meal, pork, roast root veg, and after something with plums or apples and hazelnuts. Right, I'm coming to your house because that's yummy. Jackie, shop bought mincemeat is disgusting, and now they use the awful glucose fructose syrup in it, which is evil stuff. It's too sickly now. I've made my own for years. You cannot beat Delia's recipes for most things. Yeah, absolutely. Delia is goddess in my kitchen as far as I'm concerned. Jane, in the late 80s, I had trouble getting my son to go in the school gates, so I started wearing cerise lippy and descended on him with the thread of big pink kisses. He went in the gates after that, no problem. It's good parenting, that is. So for hoping new series of Wednesday starts on Halloween, otherwise it'll be rewatching Practical Magic. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. There's no Eric alarm today. No, yes, Saint Delia. Yes, we are definitely not worthy. No, Eric's downstairs today. Sorry about that. So, yeah, I think summing it up, Wheel of the Year, very good structure to work from, but make it your own. Reinvent the wheel for your seasons, your weather, your area. It has to work for you, and there has to be, for me, that connection. But bring in the folklore and the legend of your area. Bring in the celebrations of your family and your family's traditions. Make it all into your own unique and personal Wheel of the Year. Absolutely. Jackie's asking where the rum pumpkin recipe. Yes, I think we need that one posted up. Thank you. That sounds very nice. We'll have the rum pumpkin recipe, please. Post it in the Kitchen Witch Coven Facebook group if you would. So brilliant to chat with everyone. Thank you so much for joining me, as always. If you are doing your altar for Samhain, do feel free to post a photo in the Kitchen Witch Coven Facebook group. We'd love to see images of everyone's Samhain altars. I will see you again next week. Keep an eye on the could we have a recipe version of this topic? Yeah, that would be good. Complete with eyebrows or not? As always, thank you so much for joining me. Have a fantastic week and connect with the seasons. See where it takes you. Thank you, everyone. Take care.